Hey, welcome to Deb and Matt Chat, all things life, cruise and travel.
And we're here to talk to you about itinerary changes on cruises because we've just had an itinerary change. So let's dive in and talk to you about the top 5 reasons, and there is a bonus, so it's actually 6 reasons why itineraries change on cruise ships. And why are we doing this? Why are we doing this, Deb?
We have witnessed so many people having the problems that actually do arise, when they have an itinerary change or they wake up in a different port the next morning and have no idea what's actually happened. So we just thought we'd dive through some of the reasons that these things happen and why you should just go with the flow is what we pretty much, our motto with this is. We've had lots of recent cyclones here in Queensland and tropical lows, which have forced quite a number of ships in the last couple of months to redivert to different places.
And we also saw Mum was on a Princess cruise at Christmas time. It was scheduled to go to Rabaul, and just before they left, there was an email to say they weren't going to be stopping in Rabaul because of some political unrest or security concerns up there. So that itinerary change happened too.
Yeah, and she had another one as well on the same cruise ship that they ended up having to stay 2 days in one port because of a couple of medical emergencies that they had. So people had to be lifted off the ship. So this is something obviously no one can predict. So you'll have to just go with that one when that one happens.
That is. But anyway, reason number 1, because that's a quick overview, but reason number 1 is the weather conditions that we discussed, or that you mentioned a minute ago, Deb. The Cyclone Jasper, Cyclone Kirrily have been 2 of the probably most impactful cyclones in recent times here in Queensland. Storms, hurricanes, high seas, all those sorts of things. The safety of the ship and its passengers and crew is number 1 priority for the captain on the ship.
So let me tell you, I've actually been on 2 cruises in cyclones before. So a few years ago now, both times I think we missed Noumea as our port just because they needed to stay along the coastline and keep us down. I mean, the waves are going over the top of the ship. Lots of people sick, so they try to move inland a little bit just to keep it a little bit more calmer. So as passengers, we were pretty happy to be kept a little bit calmer rather than just to make a port and then go through all of that.
And modern cruise ships do have large stabilizers on them, and those stabilizers do take some of the rock and roll out of the ship, but not all of it. So, yeah, it is important, again, that for your comfort, your safety, that weather conditions are considered. And in advance, generally what will happen is the cruise line will email you and let you know of the itinerary change, but we'll get into that in a moment. So, the other reason, and this is a big one at the moment, and we saw it just in the last couple of days, the announcement from Virgin Voyages on their repositioning cruise due to leave shortly from Australia, I think next month in March, heading back to the Mediterranean. The itinerary has completely changed. It was originally going to be going up through to Singapore first, then heading across towards the Red Sea and up through there into the Mediterranean. Not happening now. And that's because of all the political unrest and the number of attacks that have been on commercial shipping liners in the Red Sea at the moment. Obviously, there's some very sad and unsettling things happening over there.
So again, they're keeping you safe. Yeah. So they're doing this not to annoy you and to ruin your holiday, but to keep you safe.
Yeah. And look, there's been some criticism that Virgin took a little too long with this to get that announcement to passengers. But it is out there now and they are working on that. There's also Carnival have done a similar thing. There's been a similar announcement around their redeployment cruises as well and how they're altering their itineraries to avoid the Red Sea amid these continued attacks. And then so the next one is health and safety. Reason number 3, health and safety.
Oh, such a big one. Obviously, everyone's well aware of the last few years going through COVID. But look, I've been cruising for 15, 20 years. I can't even remember now how long it's been. And I've been on when there's been noroviruses, outbreaks, and then they basically confine you to your cabin back then for a couple of days and then let you back out. But nowadays they've got the hand sanitizers everywhere. They've got the washing station. So they are keeping you pretty well stocked up there. But
they are trying. Yeah, they are. They're trying everything, particularly since COVID. Like on board, hygiene is such a huge priority. And the washy lady
Yeah.
at the
On the Royal.
on the Royal Caribbean ship recently when we were on Quantum at Christmas. That was hilarious. You'd start your day going up for breakfast at Windjammer, and there she was getting you to wash your hands.
Washy coffee time.
Yeah, every morning. So that was an absolute treat. But yeah, there are examples recently, and we've seen, last year there was some headlines around norovirus outbreak on some cruise ships over in the US. There's also in the US at the moment, there's been an interesting gastrointestinal sickness on the Queen Victoria, and the CDC is actually investigating that one at the moment. It's a bit of a mystery for them over there, so it seems. So, look, these things happen, and as you start to get large numbers of people getting sick on the ship, they will quarantine you on the ship. But it may also mean that if there's so many people getting sick, they'll have to actually quarantine the ship or divert the ship, again, because of those medical emergencies, to other ports.
And also just be mindful, people unfortunately will have heart attacks or strokes or fall down flights of stairs, and they will need to be, medevaced off potentially. So just be mindful that, they've got families on there as well. So it's probably ruined their holiday way more than it's ruined yours.
And look, that's a really interesting thing, because I used to work in the ambulance service, and one of the roles I had during that time was actually coordinating aeromedical retrievals. Predominantly, though, we did do a number of aeromedical retrievals. You send the rescue chopper out, and they'd lift the person off the ship. So it does happen. Or you arrange for tenders to go out and meet the ship and then transfer the patient. So these things do happen quite regularly.
Yep.
And they can be sad, as Deb said. So be considerate to the travelling party that's with the people that are getting sick sometimes as well, because it impacts them. Reason number 4, technical issues with the ship. Deb, I've got a great example, something really interesting and different with this one. But before we dive into it, I think I want to just reiterate that, generally speaking, with most modern cruise lines nowadays, the chances of mechanical issues on the ship that are going to cause diversions are fairly slim, but they do happen. I mean, we got to see the engine control room recently.
Yeah, that was very, very cool.
By the Seas.
Yeah, so very informative chat on that. Just little sidebar, if you want to go and do the ship's tour, we do have a video of that as well that you can check out. But that was fascinating to have a look at the engine room and how it all functions in there. Yeah,
really, really interesting. So this really odd story. And this is an issue. Things like this can happen, and mechanical issues, technical issues with the ship can cause a delay as well. So 2004, I don't know if you remember, there was the P&O ship Pacific Sky in.
Yeah, I remember the Pacific Sky, yeah.
Yeah, so the Pacific Sky in 2004 here in Brisbane was actually delayed in Brisbane, had to spend an extra day here because of jellyfish.
No.
Jellyfish.
What did the jellyfish do?
Jellyfish actually got into the intakes for the engine and I assume the thrusters.
Oh, wow.
Is my understanding. and clogged it all up, and the ship couldn't propel. So
well, that's probably not one that happens every day, but interesting.
Yeah. So there you go. So there can be a range of reasons why from time to time, again, that a range of technical issues which can prevent a ship or delay a ship. It could even be things like refrigeration issues on the ship or air conditioning issues. It could be, we've seen fires. Fires have occurred on cruise ships before, and many times there's plenty of those examples documented. So again,
don't let this scare you from cruising. Just
no, don't. Definitely not. So reason 5, port availability and logistics.
Yeah, look, you've got to understand that obviously, just like here and anywhere in the world, you have strikes. So you've got to be aware that, maybe that there's a pilot strike or there's a dock strike. So obviously they won't be able to dock in those places if that is to happen.
And that's something that can happen fairly last minute as well. Again, something that's often outside the control of the cruise line. So don't necessarily be angry at the cruise line. These sorts of cancellations, because of things happening at the port and at the dock, are actually create a lot of work for the cruise lines as well, because they then have to do a whole lot of work to either arrange new schedules, new port bookings, arrange for new activities for passengers,
Especially if they've got supplies being brought to that dock as well. So, that could throw up a complete logistics issue there as well.
Yep. Now, I've got a bonus
Dun, dun, dun.
one to raise. A bonus issue is cruise line operations. So reason number 6, cruise line operations. This is an interesting one because, again, this is in the Australian cruise market. It has recently raised its head a little bit. Royal Caribbean have recently just announced, and there's a lot of speculation around what's going to happen in Australia with Royal Caribbean in 2025. They've just announced the cancellation of their Trans-Pacific cruises for Ovation of the Seas.
Starting April 2025.
Yes, so the April 2025 cruises have been cancelled on Ovation of the Seas. We don't know what this is going to mean yet for the other cruises, such as with Quantum, but that ship now is scheduled at around about the 10th of April to be at the port of Darwin. And from there, we're not sure where it's going, if it's going to go into Singapore, whether it's going to go continuing up into the Chinese market. But it certainly looks like at least Ovation is being redeployed. Now, there are some hints that maybe some other ships are going to come from Royal to replace down here.
Yep.
There's a lot of people out in the cruise community hoping that Royal are now giving consideration to year-round cruising in Australia, which would be awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm not convinced that it's going to be 2025. I think maybe 2026 we might start to see that. But, so that there's a lot of disappointed people out there about that cancellation.
Absolutely.
And that's fair. But there's also a recent change that's been made to our next cruise and the itinerary, and that is involving a new stop, an old new stop.
Yeah, so our cruise was meant to be doing 2 days in Vila and 1 in Noumea. So it was an 8-night one, and so we were devastated because we're like, we want to go back to Mystery Island because you all can see how much we love Mystery Island. But it has just been announced that we're now going to Mystery Island in Easter 2024.
Yeah, so
we're excited about that one.
Very excited. No longer are we having 2 nights in Port Vila. We're going to be going to Mystery Island. Now, this is an example of where the cruise line has obviously been listening to some of the feedback. There's obviously been some changes in availability to be able to port per se or pull up and anchor near Mystery Island, and they've been given that authority to do that, so that's what they're doing now. So that's a great outcome. So, look, cruise line operations, they are, and obviously can have some negatives to them because people were booked on those Trans-Pacific cruises that have been cancelled in 2025. But at the same time, there can be some benefits, and it's all a matter of perspective, I guess, in that regard. Now, so what is the impact of these changes on people? Look, again, it's, as I just said, a matter of perspective. There was a Quantum cruise in November that was diverted because of weather out of Brisbane. It was supposed to go to Vanuatu. There was a cyclone forming.
Was that the one that went to
No, that was a different one. This is the one that went up to Airlie Beach in Cairns.
Yeah.
Now, they were given on that one $100 US per balcony cabin compensation. There was a little bit less for inside, but people, there was one comment here, I just want to read that their wording was, it's a bit pathetic considering their fuel savings. Look, we take the approach, as you briefly mentioned, the cruise ship is the destination. And I just want to jump to another one recently, which is the cruise we're on, and this is in the Facebook group. So somebody has said, shattered. We booked this cruise because it was doing an overnight stay in Vila. I'm predicting we won't even get to Mystery Island. There's always weather dramas.
They obviously may not have had a great experience in the past, but
yeah, we've got there. You've been there plenty of times.
I've been there a couple of times now, at least. No, 3 times I think now. And look, I can't sit there and go, well, I'm just lucky. I mean, it's completely down. You book at the time of year. Obviously, you travelling between November and March generally, you've got to almost expect
And we
this happens.
We have this conversation, don't we? Like we're doing some summer season cruising at the moment, but we often talk about, when are we going to, if we're going to book, when are we going to book? Let's book mid-year when we're less likely to have weather interruptions and that sort of thing. So we haven't been able to make that time work over the last 12 or 18 months, and it has tended to be the summer breaks. But, if you're concerned and you're really focused on the destination, have a look at what the weather's like and have a consideration of that in the context of the time of year you were traveling.
But maybe, if it is all about the destination, say there's a wedding or something, maybe consider cruising isn't the best way to get there. Maybe flying would be the best way to get there. We always will just say the cruise is your destination. Be prepared. Anything could happen. But if you go with that mindset, I know it's upsetting sometimes, because people want to do certain things, but go with that mindset that that cruise is your destination. And look, there is so much to do on there that hopefully you're not disappointed with that, because we certainly never are.
Yeah. And look, I mean, just to point out, straight under that, 2 comments are under somebody saying, how great is this? So, it's it is just a matter of the weather, and we would all love to control the weather, but we cannot. So look, how the cruise lines manage this, really important, as we mentioned before. Cruise lines on their websites will have all the terms and conditions. When you book your cruise, you are agreeing to terms and conditions that state that there may be unscheduled changes to your itinerary and that they may happen before or after you board. So we're going to throw a couple of links down in the description of this video for you to click on for P&O, Royal Caribbean, Princess, Carnival, a couple of those other lines as well that service the Australian market in particular. So click those links to jump through and have a look.
And look, most of the time the cruise obviously will give you as much notice as possible to these things. Look, we have heard of hiccups and people not getting emails from them. Check your junk, things like that. Obviously, things can happen, but generally they will always get in touch with you and let you know.
Really important. Most of the cruise lines have an itinerary changes page on their website that you can keep track of as well. Not all of them, but some of them do. But also make sure you know who the primary contact is for the information. So 2 tips on this. Get onto Facebook and find the Facebook group for your specific cruise.
If there's one.
Look,
a lot of them have it, but
generally they have them, because a lot of information gets shared in there. And secondly, keep in touch with your travel agent if you're using a travel agent, because quite often changes to itinerary and things like that will get notified to the travel agent as the contact person for your booking, not necessarily to you. So you're relying on the travel agent to get the information to you.
And make sure you've got your cruise app, just keep your eye on that one throughout the time as well.
Yep. So email, cruise app,
and
travel agent contact.
Don't forget insurance. I just want to pop that one in there. Look, I honestly won't travel without it.
No, we never travel without it.
I mean, it is a complete choice of your own, but, if these things do get cancelled, for instance, at least you've got those options as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that will protect you if there are changes, if you need flight to change your flight itineraries, things like that.
Or you have a medical emergency yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So be aware of those things. Now, a quick recap. The 5 key reasons that we've got the weather, the political and security concerns, health and medical issues, technical and mechanical issues, port availability and logistics. We've also got that bonus one around operations. But the key theme to everything, if it can be summed up in one word, is safety. The cruise line and the captain have your safety as their utmost priority.
Absolutely.
So our advice is be flexible and be positive, because there is so much that you can do, and you will find that the crew on board will do everything they can once you're there. If a change occurs that's unscheduled, to give you the best possible experience. They'll add new activities to the day.
Yeah.
They'll create new theme party days, or whatever the case may be. They might slip in new trivias or whatever. So as long as it's safe to do so. Obviously, you can't do certain activities when it's extremely wavy and bouncy.
No, you can't.
But look, treat your crew with respect. and respect the cruise line staff when you're on the phone with them or sending them emails. Have a great holiday when you're out there cruising. It might sound like doom and gloom, but it's a lot of fun. Modern cruise ships are just the best place to have a holiday. We really think so.
Absolutely. So if you've got any questions that you think we might be able to answer for you, please pop them down below. Otherwise, please like and subscribe. We love to sort of see those numbers go up and people interacting with us more and more at the moment. It's really great to see. So thanks so much for all your assistance with this one.
Yeah, we hope you've enjoyed this video, found it helpful, and calm some of those nerves, understanding that safety is the number one priority for your crew and for you when you're cruising with any of these cruise lines.